Hello, and welcome to the Behaviour Pod, my friends. It is so exciting to have you all here joining us today with the wonderful, amazing, fantastic Charlotte, our TBB expert for all things speech and language and communication. This is your one-stop shop for talking things behaviour, and we're going to jump on in with another question in this mini series. Are you ready for it, Charlotte?
I am so ready.
Woohoo! Okay, let's go. So, this question was quite a broad question, and it was simply how am I impacting my child's development and behaviour when it comes to speech and language? And of course, this is such a big one to answer in a short, episode in this mini series. So let's do our best. What do you think about this question?
It's definitely a big one, a multifaceted one. I think the first thing that I think we should address is like parental guilt, because I think often this question comes with like this feeling of like, have I done something wrong, particularly if you're concerned about the way that your child's speech and language is developing. And I think the real broad brush answer to that is no. You haven't done anything wrong. There's going to be some kids who just need more support with speech and language than others. It's the way that brains are wired. Some kids are going to need extra support. And I always like to use the analogy of, like with every skill that we're going to master, some of us need more practice than others. So I think a lot of people can relate to it being a bit more of like a sporting analogy. There's some kids or some adults who are just sort of naturally sportily inclined. So, like my brother-in-law, for example, every activity or sport we do, he's like fantastic at it naturally, like he doesn't, even if it's a new thing, he's never tried, he's great.
You
Whereas
really
I'm the opposite.
new games with him.
Yeah, because I'm totally the opposite, and like I need a lot of practice. I need a lot of practice at everything. But that helps me in my job because I can relate to these kids who some of them just need more support and more practice opportunities. So I think with that, we know that actually the way that we interact with our kids can have a positive impact on their speech and language development, because there are certain things that we can do when we're interacting with them to help give them that kind of more structured support and more opportunities to practice their talking. So it's kind of like you haven't done anything wrong, but actually if you're doing a lot of these positive things, then that can like help them make progress. So it's kind of, I think it's a confusing message in some ways. And I think certainly like when we're chatting to parents, but often as a speech and language therapist, I might be trying to coach them or give them advice of things that they can do. And I always try to deliver that in the right way so that parents don't feel like they're being criticized or told that they've done the wrong thing. Does that make sense? But to know that actually you do have a unique opportunity here to be quite empowered and help your child make progress.
I love that. And I think, you've got to love a bit of parent guilt, haven't you? I mean, we all get a big old dose of it as we walk out of wherever we have had our young people, and that's it, we get lumped with this guilt and we have to work through it, guys. We're all in it together, aren't we, Charlotte, when it comes to that? We all feel that. And I think you're so right. I think this is such a big question because everything we do impacts our children, whether we are aware of it or not. And I think when we start to understand that and recognize it and not feel bad about that, it does start to shape how they receive it, and there will always be times where you feel bad about it because you do something and you're like, oh no. Oh darn, I said that, or I shouldn't have said that, or would I have done that in a different scenario? Probably not. Whoopsie. And just trying to catch yourself where you can and implement the things that you want to implement consciously whilst trying to do all of the other millions of things that we're juggling as parents and grown-ups. Is it's a difficult one, right?
It is, because we're trying to do so many different things to support different aspects of our child development. And as parents, particularly, most of us are doing this without any training, which we're just trying to make it up as we go along or listen to experts, great access to things like the behavior bank, like trying to find the way as we go. But often we actually go and we're seeking out this sort of support because we've got to a point where we're like, oh, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. So, like there's been a bit of a kind of journey to get to this point where you're ready to listen and learn. So I think what we do know is that having positive interactions with adults actually shapes young children's brains. It's having those kind of interactions with other people that really like scaffolds and helps the brains develop and helps keep different parts of the brain kind of going and growing. So we do know that interactions are really, really important. And it is through communication that we fundamentally learn most skills. Most of the stuff that we learn at school is delivered through communication. Most of the stuff that we're learning in the school of life, like we're learning that through interactions.
That's right.
And having interactions with other people and learning through our own life experience and learning through their life experience. So it's quite a fundamental one. So I would say, I'm always biased, but if we're thinking about supporting kids' development, let's think communication first, because actually if we can sort their communication or their speech and language development out first, then that's going to have such a positive impact on other aspects of their learning and development as well.
I absolutely agree. I think, it can feel like such a barrier, can't it? Communication. If children have a whole host of, I guess, internal turmoil or internal struggle when it comes to communication, that can be communicated to us in ways that don't feel safe for our nervous system, and then our version of communication is going to differ. So I think, communication is so important when it comes to behavior because of that, because everything is communication, and we are communicating even when we're not. Conscious communication versus unconscious communication, it still has a recipient. It still has someone that's like getting the vibe that's coming their way. And I think this is such a great question, and it really kind of busts the myth, that we don't have an impact as adults, if we're not trying, or if we're not actively doing the things, because the truth is there's always an impact somewhere, isn't there? And this is not this is said with, so much love and appreciation as a parent myself, as well as a practitioner. Sometimes we don't have capacity to be consciously communicating in the way that we want to, and that doesn't mean that we've ruined the relationship with the child that we're working with, or ruined the relationship with at home or what have you. But it does mean that we get to practice the repair the other end. We get to kind of discuss it. We get to circle back round to it. As we said in episode 1, having that opportunity to talk about something outside of the moment is so paramount, isn't it? It's so crucial. So communication is no different. And if we do something or say something or behave in a way that we are quickly thinking that wasn't what I wanted or intended, being able to circle back around to that and say, actually, when I did or said, or that happened, let me tell you about it. Let me talk you through what was going on inside, because they want to know just as much as we do, and that's how we model that. That's my humble opinion, anyway, Charlotte.
No, I agree with everything that you say, and I think another thing to say along these lines of like how can I even impact this? I think like a lot of the time, parents and practitioners feel a little bit like they're not empowered. They don't have any way to do this. But like there's been a lot of stuff in the media recently about the importance of the first 5 years of life. Now, I know that a lot of listeners to this podcast and maybe people who are accessing the behavior bank maybe have slightly older children than that, but that work doesn't stop at 5. Like kids don't hit their 5th birthday and their brains just stop developing. All of this stuff is still relevant. So what we do know is that those kids who in the first 5 years of their life who have been frequently engaging in positive interactions with caregivers, members of staff at their childcare setting, at their school, that actually predicts their future success, and it predicts their future happiness and well-being. So that's how important it is. We're thinking about success. We're thinking about being happy, healthy adults. So this is going to have a huge impact on your child. So it's not just something that we don't need to think about. This is like kind of like at the core. If we forget everything else, this is what we need to be focusing on. And I'm a huge fan of actually having one-to-one time with children so that we can make sure that those interactions are of good quality and responsive to an individual child as possible. And I know when you're working in a setting where there's multiple children to one adult, or even if you're a parent and you have multiple children or just multiple things to do, one-to-one time often feels quite unachievable. But 1 minute of a good quality interaction, having a one-to-one good quality interaction with a child, can actually just have such a positive impact. So I think that might be a good thing to finish on, actually, just like thinking about how we can carve out these times for one-to-one positive interactions with our child, knowing that that really is going to have an impact on their future in terms of their happiness and their well-being.
I absolutely agree. I think that's so important. And I think this is a great way to kind of finish up here. We are creating the blueprint to our children's adulthood, and as you said, it doesn't stop at 5. It's never too late. We can always check back in because of, the wonder of neuroplasticity. It's forever changing. So it really is about that. And not only do those positive interactions create the blueprint, but they also build connection, and connection is key when it comes to behavior support. So, yes, all of the things, Charlotte. I love it. Thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed episode 2 in this mini series of the Behaviour Pod, guys. We want to hear from you. We hope you have got a whole host of things that you can try out or at least take into consideration when it comes to communication from this episode. And please do head over and check us out over in the Behaviour Bank, the one-stop shop for all things behaviour. And it really is the only bank in the world where you are saving time and energy whilst investing in your children's future so that they can profit as they grow and develop. So do check it out if you are not a member. If you're a member, hi, we've already met you. We love you already. I love all of the things that we're talking about and sharing here in the Behaviour Pod. So we will say farewell and see you in episode number 3. Thanks, guys.